Okay, our next speaker is going to be Stephanie Wiggins from Los Angeles Metro.
All right, good afternoon. Thank you again to Connecticut DOT and all of you for inviting me here. Actually, 6 years ago today, this month, I was where many of you are, because in Los Angeles County, we held a similar workshop as we were looking at implementing express lanes for the first time. So I appreciate my opportunity to pay it forward, and I'm going to briefly share my experience, or our experience. In relation to Sam and San Diego County, I'm the new kid on the block. We just implemented our express lanes, which we converted our existing carpool lanes to express lanes only 18 months ago. So I have a very different experience that I will share with you. Our problem was, unlike Sam's issue in San Diego, where they had a lot of capacity and they were underutilized their carpool lanes, in Los Angeles County, we had overutilized carpool lanes. We had carpool lanes in operation for more than 3 decades on some of our corridors, and they'd become too popular and they'd become degraded, and meeting their travel speeds, average of 45 miles per hour during peak period, were no longer being met in a reliable fashion. So we, working with our state DOT, I should say that I represent Los Angeles Metropolitan Transportation Authority. We are a regional transportation agency. We are not the state DOT, that's Caltrans. We are the 3rd largest transit operator in the country, and we manage our planning, we build light rail, heavy rail, and we also fund highway improvements as well as transit. So our focus was in an environment where we have declining traditional transportation revenue sources. We have a letter from Federal Highways saying our carpool lanes have become degraded. How can we make better use of our existing assets? So that's why we looked at converting their existing carpool lane. We also were fortunate that at the time, in 2007 and 2008, the federal government had a nationwide $1 billion competitive grant opportunity that tried to incentivize major cities to look at implementing congestion pricing. So we were fortunate, not the first round, but the second round, we received a $210 million federal grant. It allowed us to move forward with planning and implementing the first hot lanes in LA County. We identified 2 corridors. The north-south corridor on the map is 11 miles in length. We converted the existing carpool lane, and for 8 of those 11 miles, there were 2 carpool lanes in each direction, so we converted those to express lanes. The east-west corridor is the 10 corridor. It's a major goods movement freight corridor. It's 14 miles in length. We converted the existing carpool lane to an express lane, and then similar to the Miami experience that Tom mentioned, for 9 of the 14 miles along the 10, we were able to restripe an existing buffer area and reduce shoulders to add a second hot lane in there for 9 of those 14 miles. We received a $210 million grant with the matching requirement. It's almost $300 million budget. $140 million of our budget actually went to transit improvements. So we were focused on a multimodal approach to introducing pricing in Los Angeles County. Just to orient you, both of those corridors feed into downtown Los Angeles. So we had many challenges in moving forward with this program. 6 years ago, we were met with significant opposition from both sides of the aisle, rather, our congressional delegation, Republicans, Democrats, independents, agnostics. Everyone was opposed to the project. At the state level, we had, again, significant opposition. The opposition, fundamentally, when I share our experience with others and what I came to know, I was not on the program at the beginning when we received the grant, but I was recruited to come and help turn it around about 3 months into the grant. And clearly, what we quickly learned that these issues of pricing are public acceptance projects. It's really not about the technology. It's really not about the civil improvements. It's about the acceptance by the public. And so we were hit with a couple of key major areas of oppositions. Number one, the fundamental principle that freeways should be free. And this is in a car culture of Los Angeles County, state of California. And secondly, but not meant to indicate the priority, was equity concerns. And we heard them loud and clear at all levels, from top roots to the grassroots. whether it was social equity concerns and creating a situation of haves and have-nots in terms of the affordability of the express lanes, modal equity in terms of a concern of prioritizing single drivers over carpooling and transit, and geographic equity. Our original plan was to implement this pricing program in one sub-region of the county, and that was a major concern, that why is one particular area of the county being singled out as opposed to spreading it around? So those were significant areas of opposition that we had to address if we were going to be able to move forward. Now, I should say that one of our approaches to addressing the concerns was to implement the program as a pilot. So our program, unlike Samuel's program in San Diego, is a pilot program. We also had challenges on our delivery approach. I mentioned that we were wanting to convert our carpool lanes in a very congested environment. That's a very challenging environment to try to convert a carpool lane. Most of the carpool lane conversions in operation across the country were done on underutilized facilities. And then a bit about technology, but I'm going to focus in my brief time on the public acceptance issues primarily. One of our key success stories was we partnered with the business community early. We convened a business roundtable. We had it hosted by our political champions. We happened to have the mayor of Los Angeles, one of our county board of supervisors, and an elected official, one of our board members who represents the 10 corridor. They served as chairs, co-chairs of our business roundtable, and we invited business representatives from all across the sector, major employers along each of the corridors, goods movement freight, businesses, hospitals, educational institutions, chambers of commerce, and other business associations to help guide us through the development of the program. This is in addition to our community-based corridor advisory groups, but the business roundtables really were a key to our success. One of the key outcomes of having the business roundtable is they encouraged us to focus early on articulating a baseline for success, since this was a pilot program, and we boiled it down to 3 major areas for evaluating the program at the completion of our 12-month pilot period. And it was, 1, we wanted to ensure that we could reduce congestion, and 2, we wanted to ensure that this was a program that was sustainable, both from an environmental perspective as well as financially, and from a social equity perspective. And then 3, the issue of public acceptance, because we'd have plenty of examples in Los Angeles County's transportation history where we implemented programs that met the traffic flow benefits, quantitative benefits, but the public did not accept them, so that they were actually removed. So just briefly on the results, we just in April received our report from Federal Highways on the 1-year pilot program. We are accomplishing many of our goals. We're providing choices to travelers. People want the flexibility. We are realizing the travel time savings for those who chose to shift their behavior as a result of implementing the pricing. I should note that we're a pilot program, and when you convert an express lane, it can take anywhere from 1 year to 3 years to actually complete your ramp-up period. So we're still in our ramp-up period, but even after 1 year of operation, there was no major change to the general purpose lanes. What's positive about that is that we did not have an adverse impact, which is what a lot of folks were concerned about. Of course, the biggest takeaway for us is our last bullet point on the slide, that over 1/3 of new transit riders along the express lanes were influenced to take transit because of the tolling element. That's important to us because the premise here is that we have a better efficiency by integrating these tools, pricing, transit, and allowing solo drivers to pay a toll as opposed to implementing them separately. Transit ridership did increase significantly. It continued to increase after the tolls on both of the corridors. From a sustainability perspective, we implemented the first of its kind low-income commuter discount program. One of the reasons we chose to do it is that on that 110 north-south corridor, it has the highest rate of poverty in the county. The second highest rate of poverty in the county is actually on the 10 corridor, the east-west corridor. So we had significant poverty issues along the corridor that were concerns to all of our stakeholders. So we've implemented a program. We have almost 5,000 households enrolled in the program. We also have generated net toll revenues during the pilot period, and we've identified those to be reinvested in the corridor where they're generated in transportation improvements. They can be transit, highway, as well as active transportation. What was important to us for public acceptance is that we had our equivalent of a lockbox. We had to get written in state law that the revenue generated would have to be reinvested back in the corridor. That was really important. Public acceptance, one indicator of public acceptance is our transponder adoption rate. We exceeded our goals of 100,000 transponders for the period. We have over 250,000 distributed. We had a public comment period. The majority of the comments were supportive. Unlike 6 years ago, when we implemented the program and we received significant negative feedback and opposition, this time we had a cross-section of letters of support submitted to our legislature, and we had favorable results from surveys of users. To close our lessons learned, political champions are critical. It's very important to address equity issues early in the planning process. It's not an issue that we recommend jurisdictions delay or defer. It should be part of the planning process. A multimodal approach to pricing is very important. Whenever you want to consider tolling, you need to provide viable, quality, alternative toll-free options. And then extensive outreach. LA County is a population of 10 million and growing. When you want to convert a carpool lane, as we did, our challenge was one of our carpool lanes operated that way for 15 years before we converted it. The other one operated as a carpool lane for 39 years. People don't adjust to changes like that overnight. So ongoing marketing, education is required to address those types of improvements. Thank you.